I'm not close, so your goddamn thing sucks me
Yeah,
in.
we're live. Go for it. We're live.
Well, I'm looking at the YouTube broadcast here on my screen, and I feel like Rosalind Carter, and you look like Joe Biden. You'd have no mask on, and you're like 5 times the size of I. Here's what I'd like to know when I look at that picture. If you haven't seen it yet, there's a comical picture of the Bidens with the Carters. The Carters, Jimmy's 96, Rosalind's 93, and I know you shrink a little bit when you get older, but Rosalind Carter somehow turned into a doll. She's not human anymore. She's the size of a doll. He's got his arm around her. He's kneeling down, Joe Biden. He's not wearing a mask. A guy who wears a mask when he's alone in a cemetery and no one within 50 feet. A guy who wears a mask on a Zoom call does not wear a mask while visiting a 96 and 93-year-old inside. But for some reason, they decided to release this picture to the public.
Yeah,
what were the rejected photos like?
Why isn't he being patriotic, Gerry?
This is the one picture they released where they both, Jimmy Carter and Rosalind Carter, look, I mean, they don't even look elderly. They look miniature. They look like, you see like miniature dogs, miniature huskies or miniature greyhounds. Those are miniature that's a miniature former president and a miniature former first lady. And that's the picture they choose to release to the public. What happened to the other pictures? Were their eyes closed? Did they have, there's some red eye or something? Because that's just uncomfortable to look at. I feel bad for the Carters. I mean, not only are they getting old and frail, but they have to spend a day with those two. I mean, Joe and Jill Biden. I'm going to guess that Jimmy was looking at Rosalind saying, is he okay? Is he okay? I mean, he's a little confused. I mean, what's he talking about? He's going to talk about his hairy legs again? Uh-oh, here it comes, that corn pop story. Oh, my God. But fortunately, it was just a lunch visit, and the Carters are free. They've suffered enough. He went on his way. But, okay, you're backing off now, so I don't feel so tiny next to big Tom Shattuck.
It's like my gravitational pull is sucking you in. This is all Dave doing this, so I'm 4 feet away from this camera.
I can't control the zoom factor of your camera remotely, unfortunately. So
you have to watch that, knowing, Shattuck, that you can't coach little kids' softball games without a mask. They can't play without a mask. But the president and first lady can go visit the extremely elderly former president and first lady maskless. I mean, I know we got a lot to get to, and I know we do this all the time, and people are probably sick of it. But I still have this feeling. I still have this question every night when I'm watching cable news, every day when I'm reading, constantly just reading everything I can read. It is the simplest question, and it's the question that nobody seems to answer. It's bizarre in my mind because the backlash against the anti-vaxxers is coming. Anyone who's not vaxxed is anti-American and selfish and all that. And you heard one and only Andrew Cuomo saying that young people have to get vaccinated yesterday because if they don't, they might go home and kiss grandma and kill her. That's what the most prominent, the most prolific grandma killer in American history said. And I'm not there. Obviously, he doesn't take questions. It's all, the whole press conference is rigged like everything he does. He's so determined to not have to face any real questions. So he handpicks a couple of reporters. They throw him softballs. He's surviving, by the way. Andrew Cuomo, who killed at least 15,000 seniors and I don't think he molested that many interns, but big numbers in there and that too. He's grabbed everything he can in the office, all the 25-year-olds. I mean, he's just a vile, despicable human being. He's going to survive this. But he says you go home without a vaccine, you might kill grandma. And I'm sitting at home and I'm going, what? Why isn't grandma vaccinated? Isn't that the follow-up question? What if grandma is vaccinated? And she probably is, because that's the kind of person who was first in line, tried to get vaccinated, someone who is vulnerable. Grandma, 75-year-olds, 80-year-olds, the Carters, those are the people who are vaccinated. Why do we have to worry about a 20-year-old kissing grandma if grandma is vaccinated? Tom Shattuck, can you answer that question for me? It's so simple. It's driving me nuts. People don't want to answer it. They don't want to be honest. They don't want to say, grandma's all set. She got vaccinated. They need to have that fear which is why Joe Biden is still wearing a mask and socially distancing and warning you not to do whatever. Because without that fear, he might be unable to push through all his radical programs and spend, trillions. He needs that fear he needs that to be the perception out there that we all should be afraid still of the evil virus. But the question, and I know some people, Joe Rogan is asking it and others, and Tucker Carlson, and they're become, enemies number 1 and 2 in America. But why do we care if the kid gets vaccinated, if his parents and grandparents are vaccinated? Can you answer me that?
No, unfortunately.
No,
and like you mentioned, it affects my own softball situation where I asked one of the coaches, I think we're free and clear here. I've been vaccinated, you've been vaccinated, we've all been vaccinated. And he said, well, the kids all haven't been vaccinated. So that's that. Until they're told explicitly to take the masks on, keep the masks off. I assume that Biden will declare maskless holiday for July 4th or something. They'll use this for something. But right now, no, you're absolutely right. And Rochelle Walensky, the CDC head, explicitly said it, that if you are vaccinated, you don't shed the disease anymore. You don't if you don't have symptoms, you can't spread it. It's over. It's over. But we're still doing.
He's still trying to push whatever this infrastructure bill, quote unquote, another just big pork barrel project, with all the radical, wish list to pass all their. Again, just to take care of all their people and all and their far left agenda, the Green New Deal and all that. So he's got to keep us in fear, thinking that we need to do this. We need to allow him and his ilk to do this, or else. If you just open up the economy, just think about it. Everything opened up. Obviously, schools. Someday even Joe Biden's going to stand up to the teachers union. I don't know when that's going to be. Maybe 3 years from now. But eventually, everything opens up. Every store, every restaurant, every school, and the economy comes roaring back because that's what it's going to do. He needs to convince us that it's not going to happen unless you let him spend $2 trillion more, $4 trillion more, $6 trillion. $6 trillion. The entire federal government, but the budget for the entire federal government is $4 trillion a year. He's asking to spend 50% more than that in one bill. And we've become numb to it, and we say, yeah, well, it's a pandemic. Let's do it. We got to do it. It's just not true. He's lying. Every time he says, a mask is patriotic, every time he says you should wear a mask, stay distant, every time a blue state governor, a liberal tyrant like Cuomo or Whitmore or Baker says, hold off on opening whatever, they are lying. They know there's no reason not to open everything today. I hate that more than anything when they say, oh, we're going to open up, amusement parks on July 23rd. And you go, why can't you do it now? There's no reason. There's no data behind it. They just want control. They don't want to cede all the control at once. So they say, 3 weeks from Tuesday, we're going to allow you to have a dance floor at your wedding. And people go, why can't we do that now? Why can't you just say it's over, where you can go back to your life? They don't want you to go back to your life, because if you do, they lose control. Period.
That's absolutely
That's
true.
the only answer.
But that's absolutely true. But there's a lot of this is self-inflicted. Like towns like Brookline, they want a parent in government. They want the patriarchy to tell them what to do. Take away our styrofoam cups, take away our plastic bags. Now, cloister us inside longer. Brookline doesn't want to open up. They're going the other way. They feel safer. These people are sickos.
The second most educated town in America, they call themselves. The second, I don't even know what number 1 is, and they are stupid. I mean, if you say, no, we still must wear masks outdoors, A, you never should have worn masks outdoors. But B, CDC says you don't have to. So you're not following the science. I love when the liberals get in this pickle, this pretzel, where they say, follow the science. And then when the science says drop the mask, they go, oh, it can't be too safe. You don't want to take any chances. Got to be patriotic. It is incredible what lemmings they are. They just say, tell me what to do.
I'm surprised we're not seeing people nap. Like I would think you're very likely to see at the softball field a parent being like, "Why am I watching this?"
So there were a handful of parents, who didn't have masks on, And at times I had to take it off too because it fogs up my glasses, and then I can't see the player, so I don't know who I'm trying to to talk to. It's ridiculous. But yeah, the parents were a couple of them out there didn't have masks on, but yeah, no, I feel like an idiot. I feel like everybody is thinking the same thing. Like, why are we all doing this?
And it's annoying as shit that like family members are choosing not to go to the games or not to watch practices of their other family members because they don't want to be annoyed by wearing a friggin' mask. Like there's a lot of different ramifications of the whole thing.
And one day, someone is going to tell you, okay, you don't have to do it anymore. There'll be no logic, no science behind it, no reason, no rationale. They'll just say, okay, that thing you've been covering your face with for a year, you can get rid of it now. And everyone will go, oh, good. No one will say, why? Why did we do it? I mean, it's insane. The level of submission, the level of compliance is just bizarre to me. That you wouldn't, even if you're a total sheep, the governor said you could lose it. CDC said you could lose it. And you're still wearing it.
Jerry, I'll be honest with you. I can feel your presence when I'm at this game with my mask on because I feel disgraceful for doing it. But at the end of the game last night, Jerry, when we all line up, our team lines up and the other team lines up, it was the shoulder tap. Good game, good game, good game. No, even some of the kids have batting gloves. Didn't matter. Everybody, here we go, shoulder tap. Good game, good game. Mask.
Everyone knows the teachers union. These are just awful, horrible people. These are not good people. These are people who don't care about children. These are people who don't want their endless vacation to end. They don't care about science. They just care about themselves. And we know Biden's in their back pocket. They're the number one donor, and he's going to do whatever they say. But you can't treat your children like that. I mean, you can allow the teacher to do whatever they do. They're selfish and they're looking out for themselves. But you're supposed to look out for your child. And you're lying to your child if you tell your child they need a mask outside and they need to tap elbows. And by the way, they need a vaccine. They do not. You know that. Everyone knows that, which is why the whole Joe Rogan thing to me was so bizarre. Is Rogan and Fauci immediately came out when Rogan said, if he's 21 years old and you're fit and you're healthy, you eat right, you're in good shape. No, you don't need the vaccine. He's just stating the obvious. And immediately they asked Fauci about it. He says, that's inaccurate. No, incorrect. Well, it's his opinion, Fauci. It's not incorrect. He doesn't think a 20-year-old should have to get vaccinated, should feel the need to get vaccinated. Many of them already had the virus. They got the antibodies. They're naturally immune. They don't even know it. Most of them, when they get sick, they don't go to the hospital. They don't go on ventilators. They don't need it. And it's become this new virtue signal. It's become this new, hot political thing where you say, if you don't get it, you're selfish. Again, they can't answer the damn question, the one and only question. If I get it, if you get it, why do you care if I get it? If you get it, Tom Shattuck, why do you care if I get it? You're safe. You're good, right? You're good. You're not going to get it. So you're wearing a mask for no reason, but I mean, I understand you're kind of a get along kind of guy wearing your mask. But why do you care if I freaking get it? Why?
No, you're right. And I think part of it is the government just falling on its face. All the messaging, all the experts, Fauci, everything they foisted on us, and you've got a good percentage of the country saying, screw, not into it.
Right.
I don't feel sick. I don't get sick a lot. I'm healthy enough. I'm just not going to do it. The vaccines haven't been tested or whatever, gone through the normal process. And so there's something about it that is like, it's almost a laudable thing that they looked at all the messaging from the government and said, I don't trust you. I do like people not trusting the government.
Of course, but it's gone the other way. I mean, now they trust the government even when there's no proof or no evidence. It's like faith. When you have faith, and generally when you think of faith, you think of faith in your God, in your religion. Faith is the belief in something in the absence of proof. So you don't have proof, and I don't want to argue the theology here, but you don't have proof that Jesus walked on water. You just have to believe it if you have faith. That's the religion, the new religion of the left, that they have faith in government even without proof. So even if there's no proof that the world's going to end in 8 years, like Bernie Sanders and John Kerry say, they believe it. Like, there's no proof. There's no scientific proof that Manhattan's going to be underwater. That's just, or the ice caps are all going to be gone. They're told that and they believe it on faith. In this case, they believe it on faith that a mask for a 10-year-old kid outdoors has any effect on anything. It's just bizarre. So they make their kid wear it. They restrict their kids' breathing. They affect their kids' mental state, but they don't care. It's what the government told them to do. And to me, you need to see no more than the president or people around him. As I said, the president wearing a mask alone in a cemetery, or wearing a mask on a Zoom call. He's asked about it, or his flack is asked about it, and she says he wanted to send a message. So the message is from the president of the United States is that you still must act as if you're vulnerable even after you're vaccinated. In other words, don't bother getting the vaccine. If you really think about it, why? Why do you get the vaccine? The vaccine, if you still have to act like you are vulnerable, you still have to act like you might get sick and die.
Right.
So I thought the biggest anti-vaxxer in America was Fauci. I'm changing that. That is Biden. Joe Biden is the single biggest anti-vax voice in America. Every time he talks about the virus, he acts like it's nothing's changed.
Well,
Nothing
and you go
has
back to your
changed.
faith argument, Gerry. Remember when Craig Melvin asked him, he said, Biden, why do we have to wear masks? The CDC now says we don't have to. We're going against those regulations. Biden used your theological argument by saying, because you got to be patriotic. That's like saying you go to hell if you don't. You're morally a bad person if you don't. I'm done with trying to show you science and argue with you. You're morally failing if you don't have your mask. Okay, so shut up. That's what they're saying.
Let's get that answer to Melvin of the Today Show, on the Today Show, because you're so right. Joe Biden is so confused, and I'm not talking about senility. That's another. I'm talking about he doesn't know what to say or do when it comes to the mask or the science anymore. I mean, he knew it. He peddled the panic porn for months to keep everyone in fear and force, again, his radical spending spree on us because, it's an emergency and we're in dire straits. Now he doesn't know what to say. He genuinely does not know the answer to the question of why are you wearing a mask if you're vaccinated, if you're outside, if you don't have why? And he can't handle that. Neither can his spokespeople, by the way. Nobody can answer, at least to my satisfaction. And when someone like Tucker or Joe Rogan questions the science, what do? They say, "Oh, he's an idiot. He's he's lying to people. He's trying to get people riled up." It's really a simple question. If it works, why don't you act like it works? But apparently nothing's going to change. I don't know. Maybe you're right. 4th of July. Maybe 4th of July says time to get rid of the mask. And
right.
live our lives.
Well, not just time to get rid of it, but we've done it. I have brought us here to and yes, and they'll all take the masks off.
About doing the same thing Trump did, 1 million shots a day. He says, no one thought we could do it. What are you talking about? Everyone thought you could do it. We were doing it before you took office. We got you got vaccinated 3 weeks before you took office. I mean, that's how it worked.
CDC guidance this week about outdoor mask wearing. A lot of folks excited that they can now shed these masks if they've been double vaccinated. Are you going to be one of these folks now? We no longer going to see the President of the United States outside with a mask on?
Sure. I mean, but what I'm going to do, though, because the likelihood of my being able to be outside and people not come up to me is not very, very high. So it's like, look, you and I took our masks off when I came in because look at the distance we are. But if we were, in fact, sitting there talking to one another close, I'd have my mask on and I bet you'd have a mask, even though we've both been vaccinated. And so it's a small precaution to take that has a profound impact. It's a patriotic responsibility, for God's sake. It's making sure that your wife, your children, if in fact they haven't been vaccinated, making sure that they're not going to get sick.
God help us. What the frig is, honest to God, that's the president of the United States, and he cannot answer the question. So you've both been vaccinated, Craig Melvin there, the reporter, and Biden, and they can't get closer to each other because of what? Because of why? I mean, it's just nuts.
Because
I mean,
they're
it's a good question.
non-disease, non-virus air particles could not infect each other. That's
And
why.
you're taking care of your wife and children? What the hell are you talking about? You just said you're vaccinated. You don't have it. You're not going to get it. The vaccines have proven to be extremely effective. You're good. And you can't answer the question. You can't answer the simple question that even your toadies in the media, even Today's Show, is asking the obvious question of, why do we need masks? Can't we just get rid of them? And this nitwit can't give you an honest answer that makes any sense at all. It's just so friggin'
he's way off on the administration's actual messaging too. People said Trump did this a lot, and the comms team would have to clean up after him. Well, Psaki's doing the same thing, because Biden shouldn't be saying this. The official administration message is now that modeling behavior, masks and vaccine, are something that has to be done in communities and faith centers and local influencers in communities. Not celebrities, she said. It's not celebrities. It's not famous people, famous politicians that we have to model after. So he's still doing it, saying it doesn't matter if we're close, because we respect each other and family, because damn it, patriotism.
Right. Patriotic.
Nope. Right.
Simple
Nobody's
question,
saying it.
Tom. He just said a simple gesture that will have a profound impact. Okay, Mr. President, I will say this slowly. What is the profound impact that your mask will have on you or anyone else? Can you answer that? And it's just a simple thing that makes a big difference. It's our patriotic duty. What profound impact?
There is a profound impact, Gerry, because as you were just saying, he's also laboring when he breathes, because he's breathing through this filter all day. And how about a profound impact with him, showing this again and again in casting doubt on the vaccinations, along with the boneheaded donkeys in the CDC stopping the Johnson & Johnson vaccination. There's been a decline since that time in people interested in the vaccine. People saying, you know what, you guys are freaking clowns. I want nothing to do with this. I feel fine. I'm going to go live my life. Yeah, there has been an impact. The Biden rollout of the vaccine has been terrible. The messaging has been idiotic. And it's starting with first of all, being inconsistent and exaggerating, to conflating it with social justice outcomes. Elmo noticing melanin, when they're talking about getting vaccinated. They've totally effed this up. Nobody who's got to... Go ahead.
If Trump were president, he would have burned the mask and said, live your life, go out, and everyone would have felt good. Everyone would have said, we've made it through this. We're vaccinated. We're safe. That's how it works. This is so disturbing for two reasons. A, they're lying. You don't need the mask. You don't need the distance once you're vaccinated. And B, you have to ask yourself, why? Why are they doing this? Why are they lying? Why are they pretending that you should still live in fear? That's what they want. That's what Joe Biden and his whole team, they have made a concerted effort to keep everyone still living in fear. Mm-hmm. And you gotta wonder why. What's the real goal? And the goal is to fundamentally transform the country, as he said many times.
I mean, we're all complying with these dumb things like softball games and shit like that, but I don't think people are living in fear like they were, let's call it 2 months ago. Like, the sentiment is clearly changed.
Right. Well, you know what? That's because they know he's lying. They know that it's a big lie. And some people...
Well, if that were the case, then everybody wouldn't be complying if that were the case.
Well, but I didn't say everybody, but a lot of people are. A lot of people are. And I mean, the fact that there are kids who still aren't in school, that should be our next, right there. Our next civil war should start right there. That should be the cause. They should storm these schools. They should fire every damn teacher. The idea that kids aren't in school anywhere, I realize most of the country, but in these big cities, and Biden will not even commit to making them go back to school in the fall. He is so in the tank for these union thugs. It's amazing that anybody would accept that based on science. You're being lied to. It's incredible. And here's how the things have changed. Is now if you just say, I don't know if a kid, a 14-year-old kid needs a vaccine. I don't know if I want to get my 8-year-old vaccinated. You are going against the establishment, the system, and you are challenging, the swamp, this deep state, whatever you want to call it. if you say, I'm not sure every kid should get vaccinated. I'm not sure kids would wear masks. They're like, what? What is wrong with you? What are you, some kind of promise oath keeper? What are you, some kind of proud boy? You can't do that. Which is where we get to, like Tucker Carlson or Joe Rogan, just asking the question, and it's a good one. But if you ask it, you immediately label yourself, a rebel, guilty of wrong think. And when we played it last week, when Joe Rogan said a 21-year-old fit, no, I wouldn't get it. I mean, I said it many, many, many times. Why would a fit young person want to get the vaccine? Why do they have to get the vaccine? It doesn't make any sense. And yet here we are, kids, they're doing trials on babies. They're talking about not letting kids play Little League until they're vaccinated. College kids who've already had the virus, they've been through it, they get the immunity, can't go back to school at many schools, UMass and many schools around the country. They can't go back in the fall unless they're vaccinated, even if they've already had it. They're 19 years old, they're healthy, they're fit, they're thin, and they have the immunity. They have to get the jab just to keep, I don't know, the government happy. It's just bizarre. This time we live in is just so insane. But
hold on, Gerry. You say, what's the long-term goal? What's the goal? We know the teachers union's goal. Obviously, that's just an extortion. That's fine. But the goal is, like you just said, Tucker Carlson is an anti-vaxxer, is saying no, push back against Fauci. He wants us to get the coronavirus. So the goal is that they're fundraising, especially, for the 2022 elections. Democrats are fundraising on a street level right now, fundraising against Tucker Carlson, against the poor boys, against the people with antlers, because these Democrats know they're about to get swept out. It's about to be a tough year for them. So there's a lot of money to be made in this. And so I assume Biden, when he talks to Pelosi, she says, I need my team, I need my caucus to be able to go and raise money, because all the infrastructure shit we're putting through is going to get us blown out. So we need to, keep raising money here while we can with this. And I think that's what they're doing.
2 years to ramp through everything they can. 2 years to completely transform the country. And God knows they're trying from day one with his executive orders. They are trying to change everything they can in 2 years. And then they lose the House. And Nancy Pelosi's out in her ass, and hopefully the Senate too. But and then it's Kamala against Ron DeSantis in 2024, and I like our chances. But back to this idea that if you just say, I'm not sure if a kid needs a vaccine, suddenly you're the public enemy. I mean, if you're Joe Rogan, there's pressure on Spotify to pull down the content, to pull down the podcast in which you just casually say, I don't know if 20-year-olds need this. If you're Tucker Carlson, you say, why are they acting as if the vaccine doesn't work? Which is it? Does it work? Then why are you acting as if it doesn't? Then you become the new target of the establishment, the media, the Democrats, the government. You become the target because you don't completely fall in line and quietly, docilely go along. You ask, why would a kid need a vaccine? Which is a damn good question, but just asking that question gets you labeled, enemy of the people. And you have people who are like the voices of the establishment, like John Oliver and Don Lemon and guys like this who speak for the government, who speak for the establishment media, saying, how dare you ask questions? How dare you? It's just so bizarre. But yeah, I've decided now that I'm a big Bill Maher guy, I'm still not getting HBO because I hate John Oliver. And let's be honest, there's no more punchable face. As the people on CNN said of Nick Sandman, have you ever seen more punchable face? I would say yes, John Oliver. But he's ripping Rogan, and we know what Rogan said. Rogan said, if you're 20 and you're fit, nah, why bother? A damn good question, but we will have none of that. We will have none of that so-called dissent. Let's listen briefly to this dink, John Oliver.
The vaccine protects against COVID, not the concept of mortality. It is weird that I have to clarify this, but you are, in fact, going to die one day. Mike? Yeah, Mike? Stop listening to what Joe Rogan tells you. He's a fucking moron. And those are his words, not mine.
Well, they got Rogan to back down, of course, but why is he a moron for saying 20-year-olds shouldn't get the vaccine? They don't need it. I mean, why? It's scary. These are scary times. I feel like we say this constantly, Shattuck. It is scary that you're not allowed to ask why a kid, forget a grown-up. I mean, isn't it a personal choice? But I just go back to the same question over and over again. Why do you care? If you're vaccinated and you're all good, and we know it's 100%, you're not going to die from the virus if you're vaccinated. You're not. Why do you care if the guy jogging across the street?
Yeah.
Why do you care if the person walking their dog is masked up? Why do you care if they're vaccinated? Why?
You know, we were saying this last year. It's just simply the Seinfeld AIDS ribbon thing. You know, everybody has a ribbon. Where's your ribbon? Just have a ribbon. Be the kind of person that doesn't have a ribbon. Why wouldn't you be the kind of person that doesn't? I'm going to go on Facebook here and just type this up here. No, these people don't seem to be the ribbon kind of people. It's just, it's pathetic and small.
If you went to softball practice without your mask, there would be people in a Facebook group who would say that that big guy who coaches softball, he did it without a mask. It was
my favorite this week
in the sun, but he took his mask off.
My favorite this weekend was I'm like I got my dad's gene where like I like to be in the outfield where no other parents are. I'm watching the game by myself. I witnessed a guy who was literally, there was nobody even remotely close to this human being at the baseball field over the weekend, and he's masked up. The closest person to him was the left fielder, and I'm talking, you know what I mean? I'm talking almost a football field, for Christ's sake. And they're masked up.
I do it every day. I'm out running or biking in the city. I was out the other day. We walked for hours. And it was just hilarious to see people all alone, like along the river or along the waterfront, all alone, walking, masked up, or worse, running. How would you run? How would you not pull it off after, a mile or so when you're having trouble breathing? Say, this is really for show. I don't need to wear it. I'm out here alone. But they're doing it, man. I rated the compliance level at about 60% now. It was 95. So we're making progress. People are waking up. But there'll be some people that will, 50 years from now, will still be wearing the mask, thinking that scary virus that Fauci told us about is hiding out there. I've been vaccinated 17 times, but still, you can't be too careful.
Jerry, how perfect is this? So this is a game. We'll say it was in Amesbury, Massachusetts last night. My daughter's softball game. All the girls have not only their coronavirus mask on, but they've also got an infield mask, steel cage mask that everybody in the infield has to wear in case they get a line drive in the head. So they've got two sets of ordinances already there. And, it's the local board of health decides the mask rules and this and that. So we're playing there with all this government regulation all over the little girls just trying to play the game. And the lights never came on as it got dark. The one thing we need government to do, just get the lights on.
I was going to say that's a metaphor if I've ever heard one, Shattuck. The government can't get the lights on, but they think you and your little 8-year-olds. How old are these girls? 10-year-olds are being careless and reckless because they're running around outdoors without a mask. It's just madness. Yeah. And I understand this is what they wanted. Biden. The media, this is what they wanted. They wanted to flip things upside down. They hated Trump that much. They wanted everything to go the other way. So in many ways, what they do is whatever Trump would not do. Whatever. You can't be too careful because we know Trump was careless, right? Trump wanted to pull the mask off, which means Biden wants to keep it on. Simple as that. But there are other things, and I want to get to this. I know I've ranted about masks enough, even though every day there's just so much more that is disappointing. If you're an American, there's just less freedom and less independent thinking out there than ever. When you just ask a question and they act as if you're storming the Capitol on January 6th, they act like they should put you in jail without bail and interrogate you for the next 3 months because you questioned the effectiveness, the usefulness of masks. Here's another development from the last year or so that should disturb everyone. And I blame completely and unequivocally, I blame my Congresswoman, Ayanna Pressley. I blame Maxine Waters. I blame Elizabeth Warren. I blame Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. They obviously they tried to divide mostly along racial lines, but in a way, this is sort of dividing on racial lines because it's the white police officers against the people, against the citizens of this country. They tried to make the police the bad guy. You know that? I mean, it was during the campaign when Liz Warren said that all cops are racist. And it's a couple days ago, and I still find this amazing that we're the only ones talking about it. I'm the only one tweeting about it. Ayanna Pressley said in the last 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, 70 people have been murdered by the police in this country. 70. This is a congressman, a sitting congressman, who's making the most serious charge you could make against the cops, saying they are murdering people in great numbers. This is how you know Ayanna Pressley is a joke. Nobody follows it up. Nobody asks her about it. I mean, she can just lie. And this is a pretty dangerous lie. It's blaming the cops for something they didn't do, murder, and turning the people against the cops. So she wants there to be a great divide. She wants there to be real hatred for the men and women in blue. She hates them that much, and she wants everyone to hate them. She wants to defund the police, just like Rashida Tlaib and AOC and the rest of the squad, Cori Bush. They hate cops. They want there to be war on cops. So you're going to get it. I mean, you get a lot more cops getting shot than unarmed suspects, but that doesn't bother her. We're going to play this video. It went viral. It's amazing. It's a cop in LA pulling a woman over, a teacher, because she was talking on her cell phone. I want to start by commending this cop. We need more of this. It's insane that people are just looking at their phones and talking on their phones while driving and killing people. It's more of a problem than drunk driving. At least drunk drivers know they're doing something wrong generally and try to keep it between the lines. And the people on their phones, they don't care. They don't think there's anything wrong. They're looking at their phone. They're swerving around the highway, and they don't even think twice about it. Well, this woman gets pulled over by a cop who has not his body cam, his own camera, to protect himself against people like this. Because ask yourself, when you're hearing this, watching this, if there were no video, would this person not accuse this cop of doing something inappropriate, something illegal? Of course she would. She is scum. She's the worst kind of human being doing this in front of her child. She would absolutely lie about this cop if he didn't have it all on video. God bless him. He videotaped it all. He made her look like the worst person in the world. And by the way, he gave her a break. He could have given her a ticket for having no license. He could have given her a number of tickets, but all he did was write her up for for talking on her cell phone, which she gets a big break from the guy and still just continues to insult him. And I blame, you know what? Forget it. Blaming Ayanna Pressley. Can you say definitively that this isn't Ayanna Pressley in the video? Let's watch.
Yes, you are, ma'am. Good morning.
And the speed limit is 40, and I was going 38, so why are you harassing me?
You are correct. I pulled you over because
you're a murderer.
Because
yes, I started to record because you're a murderer.
You can't be on your cell phone while you're driving.
I wasn't on my phone. I was recording you because you scared me.
You can't use your cell phone while you're recording.
I can record you.
May I have your driver's license?
It's at my apartment.
What's your apartment?
It's at my home. I'm just taking my son to his.
Do you have your driver's license?
I mistakenly left it at home.
Do you have a picture of your driver's license?
Yes, I do.
May I have it?
And can you call your supervisor, please?
I already did. He's on his way.
Good, because you're a murderer.
Okay.
And so you're giving me a cell phone ticket? Is that why you're harassing me?
Not harassment. Yeah. I am enforcing the law.
I have a right to record the police when they're harassing me.
By all means, but you can't do it while you're driving.
I wasn't texting or none of that.
Do you have that picture?
You scared me and made me think you were going to murder me.
Okay, well, I'm sorry you feel that way.
Well, that's not just a feeling. You're a murderer.
Okay. Can you zoom in on that for me,
Sure.
dear?
And it goes, you got to play the end too, because she wasn't just good enough to call him a murderer over and over again. The guy handled it beautifully.
Yep.
I couldn't do it. We're going to see cops, smacking people like this with the stick or tasing them, and we're going to say it's police brutality. But let's be honest. She started it. At the end, and again, she says she's a teacher driving a Mercedes with her child in the car, and she treats the cop like this. And
Okay. Can you zoom in on that for me, Jay?
Sure.
Thank you.
And I'm perfectly legal, and I'm a teacher. So there.
Congratulations.
Murderer. You're a murderer.
What's your last name? I can't see that there.
Well,
If
here you
stop,
go,
Stop
murderer.
shaking. Zoom in on that for
No,
me,
because
ma'am.
you're scaring me.
Oh,
You're threatening to kill me and my son. Can you give me
Okay.
the
Well,
iPad,
I'll
please?
tell you what. You keep smiling.
Yeah,
You're on camera.
you're trying to threaten to kill me.
I
I'm not
didn't say that.
smiling. You're the one who's crazy.
Hold that still. I can't see that. Is this your car?
Yes, it is. And you're trying to say I stole my own car because you're jealous?
Yeah.
Is that what
I don't
that's
think
about?
so. You wait for me right here, okay?
You're jealous?
Citation, all you need to do is your signature. He's only citing you for using your cell phone while you're driving. That's it.
There you go, ma'am. Sign inside the
For,
red
being
box
a,
right
for
there.
him being a Mexican racist. What is that name? Gasso?
It's on the citation, ma'am.
Here you go, Mexican racist. You're always going to be a Mexican. You'll never be white. You know that, right? You'll never be white, which is what you really want to be.
There you
want to
go,
be
dear.
white.
Have a
you,
good
ma'am.
day.
You want to be white so bad.
to steal one from Keith Olbermann, that is the worst person in the world. I know there are murderers out there and rapists. That's the worst person in the world. In front of her child, she treats the cop like this, even though the cop couldn't have been more professional. And by the way, gave her a break. Again, gave her a break. And she calls him a Mexican racist over and over and over again. By the way, this story was broke on, I believe, on Fox News. There's this new reporter, Bill Belusian.
Yeah, good-looking kid from LA.
Yeah, really handsome. He's from LA, and he broke a bunch of stories, and finally Fox grabbed him and hired him.
Mm-hmm.
And he just started, and this is his first story. He says they have the identity of the woman, and they're going to report it, break it, and they should. That will be so great. Maybe it's not such a bad thing that the kids aren't in school, because this is one of their teachers. And
can you imagine how freaking exciting her class is?
Oh
God.
I
mean,
she's poisoning the young minds. What,
Gerry,
first of all, wouldn't you wait until he's kind of a jerk to you before you start calling him a murderer? She does it before he even gets to the window. She's calling him a murderer. And to his credit, he doesn't let it bother him. But I wanted him to say, who did I murder? What would she say? George Floyd?
I really like, if there's the part of me wants to just say this is a one-off situation and that cops all over the place are not dealing with psychotic individuals like this, calling them murderers left and right. But I feel like this is commonplace in a lot of cities around the country.
I don't know. Okay, I mean, maybe there's an animosity.
Maybe not a
towards
murderer,
cops.
but there's a lot of animosity when you get pulled over.
Yes, and I blame 100%. I blame our leaders, Ayanna Pressley, again, Elizabeth Warren, Joe Biden. They wanted this war on cops. They wanted to blame all cops for what Derek Chauvin did, and it's working. They're getting cops are getting are quitting, retiring, are getting fed up with it, getting tired of it. You're going to end up with bad cops because the good ones are going to get out while they can. This is the goal for anti-police people like Ayanna Pressley. Forget defunding. How about just destroying the morale of the police, destroying the relationship between the public and the police? That's their goal, and they're doing it. That's what you voted for. If you voted for Ayanna Pressley or Joe Biden or Liz Warren, that's what you voted. You voted for this.
And once again, Gerry, we talk about how just below the surface it is with these progressives when they get a chance to be like mean to women, to call them names, to berate them in stores, especially like the masked Nazis, a guy in little bike shorts who yelled at the woman in the store. It's right below the surface. How right below the surface was she, with you're a poor Mexican who can't afford a Mercedes. It was right there. These people, call the other side racists in classes all the time. They're just filthy
man. I just look forward. I look forward to this woman's name and the school she teaches. I want you to look forward to that breaking, because I mean, the cop who made that spoof video about LeBron got suspended. The cop who responded in DC when the guy said, "You're going to shoot me like Micaiah Bryant," and he said, "Are you going to stab someone?" That cop got pulled off the street and disciplined for just responding, and a pretty good comeback, by the way, responding to some a-hole harassing him. I mean, there is this war on cops now, and this is a great example of it. This cop couldn't have been more professional. It's just because he's a cop, because he's got a badge, that she calls him a murderer. And I don't know how old the kid is. If you haven't seen the video, all the faces are blurred. The woman's face is blurred. It's a white little Mercedes, not a real Mercedes, a little Mercedes. And the kid's in the car, but we don't know how old he is because all the faces are blurred. Hopefully we find out all about this woman.
The Hollywood intelligentsia, Gerry, tells us that 50% of black people pulled over are murdered by the cops. That's a lot. That's a big...
Based on my quick assessment, since George Floyd's murder, 100 people have been murdered at the hands of law enforcement. Since the trial, 70 people have been murdered at the hands of law enforcement.
All right. That was 2 weeks ago, Shattuck. 2 weeks ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks ago. So a congresswoman accuses the cops of murdering 70 people in the last 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks. And there's not a word from anybody. Not a word. I mean, no, not. Of course, the Boston Globe would never cover it because that's not what they do. They are in the tank for this lunatic. The Herald, maybe they did. No one read it, but the TV stations don't want to touch it. Even the Tucker Carlsons and whatever Laura Ingrams didn't touch it because they don't take this woman seriously. But it is a congresswoman accusing the cops of murdering people, and nobody cares. It's amazing to me.
No, they get applauded at the Oscars, Gerry. 3 a day. Killed 3 a day are murdered by police.
Right. It's just amazing that that's not just acceptable. It's just like she says it so cavalierly and comfortably. Yeah, they're murdered. You know what the real number is? I said this the other day. I'll say it again. 0, 0, 0. They've murdered 0. If they did murder someone, we would know all about it. We would know all about it. She includes the Micaiah Bryant shooting, and this makes me sick. Okay. Ayanna Presley and Al Sharpton and God knows LeBron James still won't admit they were wrong, that this cop Nicholas Reardon is a hero, that the girl in pink would be dead if he didn't take action. I mean, LeBron James was tweeting about this yesterday. We can get his tweet, but yesterday LeBron James took credit for fueling the discussion about here's what he writes. I fueled the wrong conversation about Micaiah Bryant, and I owe it to her and this movement to change it. Thank you for educating us about Micaiah and her story and why this needs to be about her. He writes, this is a tweet, protect our young black women and men with hands praying and hearts and everything else. Protect our young women and men. Let me think of a cop. I don't know. Columbus, Ohio cop who did exactly that and got doxxed by this dink, LeBron James. He did exactly that. He protected a young woman. He saved her life. And LeBron James tweeted out a picture and said, "You're next." Obviously no repercussions from Twitter, nothing from the NBA, not a word from his sponsors. What he did was much, 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 much worse than, I don't know, and you name it. Myers Leonard, that idiot that yelled out an ethnic slur, anti-Semitic slur while playing a video game. He's out of the league.
No, the reaction of mainstream media, newsmakers, and influencers was, who among us didn't get into knife fights when they were kids? And then mix that with he should have shot the knife out of her hand, maybe. That was the reaction of the well-thought-out intellectual response. And everybody in the left and CNN said, yep, that's very reasonable. Yep, absolutely. Who among us? I mean, it's no longer about facts, which is craziness. It must be fun to be on their side when it doesn't matter.
That was always Rush Limbaugh's take. It's fun. It's easy to be liberal because you don't have to have facts. Just have emotion. This is what this is. Emotion. You see a cop shoot a 16-year-old, a troubled 16-year-old, and kill her, and your immediate reaction is, let's get him. Let's get him, LeBron. But he literally, this is yesterday, last night, 6:30, protect our young black women and men. Okay, how about this? When one of us is about to be stabbed to death, you stop it. That's the definition of protecting a young black woman. How about you thank that cop? How about you tip a cap? How about you apologize to him for what he did?
How about
and
you
by the way,
ask people who look up to you not to stab each other?
right? How about you just once tweet about Chicago, the violence in Chicago? I don't know if you saw it the other night. There were 31 people shot. 31. LeBron's never tweeted about it, never spoke, gone there, made a speech. I mean, God knows, Al Sharpton and Benjamin Crump don't care about it because they're not being shot by white cops. Ayanna Pressley, she must see these stories break, and her first question is, 31 shot. Any of them shot by white cops? No, forget it. No.
Yep.
We got other things to worry.
Don't need to know their names. Their names don't matter.
They don't matter unless
put the spray paint away. Exactly. Well, and that was, so this summer, by the way, the high water mark is usually 70 on a weekend in Chicago. But, this summer, when you've reimagined the cops, and you're doing everything you can to drive people out of the force, I mean, this is not going to be a good summer to be in Chicago. And even you look at New York City, like Washington Square with the little Arc de Triomphe thing there is now uninhabitable, like it was in 1974. These are just drug dens, crime areas. We've created these areas, and it's never their fault, though. It's never the left's fault for doing all this horse shit that caused this and destroyed these cities. It's incredible. They never have to be held
DC Mayor Bowser, DC. She's taking care of the real important issues. There were a bunch of people shot over the weekend in DC. Crime is out of control. Little kids are carjacking Uber Eats drivers and killing them. Mm-hmm. And the mayor comes out and says there will still be no dancing at weddings. The mayor of a crime-ridden city it thinks that it's worth her time and energy to make sure everyone knows dancing is still banned in DC. Now, I'm not sure why anyone would get married in DC if they just go somewhere, go to Virginia and dance. If you want to dance, don't get married in DC. But this absolute moron of a mayor thinks it's worth that's in her domain in this time of great crisis in so many levels. Let's make sure everyone knows they're not allowed to dance. They're not allowed to dance or sing. You can't sing either because, that spreads the scary virus. But that's the kind of clowns we have in elected office.
Gerry, we had the dancing thing here in Massachusetts with Governor Baker. It's the same thing.
Right.
You have these wacko bureaucrats, these total pusses, like the people who run the softball situation, who are afraid, I don't know, we'll just do what the bureaucrats say. And you put them on the TV with somebody wildly doing sign language, and suddenly that's law. That's, oh my God, this is like a special sermon that we're hearing, and everything they say spiritually will buy into. It's freaking God. We've never been so incompetent.
It is frightening, and it's un-American. It's just un-American for people not to question authority. Remember that bumper sticker? When I was a kid, there was a bumper sticker. I believe it was born out of the anti-nuke movement, and it said question authority. Now it's the opposite. Even if you're Joe Rogan or Tucker Carlson, there will be none of that. There will be no wrong think. No, I mean, you're literally not allowed to question the election. An election. I mean, obviously, in the last 240 years, it was okay, but the one election in November 2020, you can't question, things like whatever, mail-in balloting. You can't question the role of big tech in covering up the news, because if you do, you may end up with the Viking man in jail, no bail, solitary confinement. You may for questioning.
But it's more insane than that,
election
Gerry.
Was on the level.
But it's more insane than that. You've got Stacey Abrams telling us we can't question the election. This is like an acid trip. Everything's so freaking backwards. It's craziness.
Here's somebody tweeted this yesterday, and I have to agree. On days like yesterday, I want to know if I could just hit a button on my Twitter machine and just stop the Bill Gates divorce tweets, because literally there had to be 500 of them in the course of one afternoon about Bill Gates and whatever her name is, Melinda Gates, getting divorced. Now that's interesting, I guess. 27 years married, they're getting divorced. He's worth 130 billion. I don't know what kind of prenup they have. I don't care.
Zero prenup. Oh, I should make that zero prenup.
But think of this. Who cares if it's like with Bezos? There, when you're poor, divorces don't really matter because you don't have a lot to split up to divvy up, right? When you're filthy rich, when you're one of the richest people in the world, they don't matter either. Because you have so much money, it doesn't matter. I mean, does it matter that Bezos gave what's her face, 30 billion? I mean, Melinda Gates is going to get whatever it is, 30, 40, 50 billion. So what? That means Bill Gates has 70, 80, 90 billion. And as long as we can keep this pandemic going, it's going to get bigger and bigger. But it's just odd that you don't just, I don't know, you've been married 27 years, you're probably living separate lives. Why do you have to get divorced? I mean, so Bill Gates can get out there and play the field? Is that why?
I don't know, but I find it one of the least intriguing divorce stories out there. With Bezos, there was some stuff going on. It got a little interesting. Plus, he's a big activist. He owns a newspaper.
So
he's screwing around. Yeah, but Gates has done the Gates Foundation stuff. They've done some good stuff in Africa. He's just, it's a little bit more boring. Jobs was an interesting guy, but Gates is just damn boring. How many more times am I going to watch him and freaking Warren Buffett, doing TED Talks together?
I think, he's going to get on Tinder now, and his little description on Tinder is going to be, I believe in drinking toilet water and eating synthetic beef. And
he's going to clean up on Tinder.
And sending little particles into the air to block out the sun. And the person's going to go, what? I just want to get drunk and have a good time. I'm moving on.
Do we doubt, by the way, that his first paramour was Melinda? I mean, this is not a guy who had a way with the ladies in the 70s and early.
I think he's saying 27 years and all those missed opportunities that he had out there in the field. That's what he's thinking.
But it's amazing because he's a billionaire, because he's a computer geek, and we know, he built the company, made his fortune, and God knows I don't begrudge that. But what makes him an expert on vaccines or viruses or shutdowns? I mean, just the opposite. I mean, nothing affects him. He doesn't lose a nickel. He made billions during the lockdown. He doesn't sacrifice a thing. Why do we care? Why do so many people care what Bill Gates says about the coronavirus? Why does it matter? He's a billionaire, but he's a computer guy.
Well,
But we shout down the likes of Joe Rogan. You're just a.
Well, not just Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, right? Because money basically allowed people to trust Bill Gates, right, and his expertise on all these issues. But why is Elon Musk any different? The guy's going to the fucking moon of all places. Like, why does Elon Musk get ridiculed, but Bill Gates doesn't?
That's a good question. Elon Musk doesn't preach nearly as much. He doesn't tell us, that we have to stop eating meat or we have to drink, whatever it is, poop water, recycled water, and we have to block out the sun. Elon Musk doesn't do those extreme things, but Bill Gates sits there and acts like he's an authority on the virus or on public health, and lots of people fall for it. They just say, hey, he's really smart, he made a lot of money, I'm going to listen. I mean, screw him. What does he know? He knows less than I do.
It's the sales department that's telling all the producers to book him. They're like, he wants to come on, you put him on, and we'll see if we can wet our beaks in this whole thing. It's like with Bloomberg. Remember, all these people last year started to endorse Bloomberg, op-eds about Bloomberg in the New York Times. What was it? One of the guys in the New York Times whose wife had gotten millions of dollars from Bloomberg endorsed him. It's like, I know it's a naked transaction, but whatever. When all these big money guys, people are trying to shake them down. So they have access.
Maybe that's another one of those positive outcomes from this we learned that these people that we used to think were really smart aren't that smart, at least not that well-rounded. I mean, Bill Gates, I would rather listen to Dave Callahan talk about public health than Bill Gates. To listen to this guy with this God complex say we can block out the sun, and you're going, who gave you the right? I mean, who decided it was in your domain to block out the sun? I don't want that. I want more sun. I don't believe this nonsense that we're all going to burn up and die in 50 years. I don't believe you've been lying to us about the environment for 30, 40 years. I'm not going to start believing you now. Just Leave the son alone, geek.
Oh yeah, and it's totally nerd complex too. Like we said, these guys weren't getting chicks in high school. They weren't popular. They have no real social skills, and then they come out like these megalomaniacs once they get their billions, and they almost to a T, they do this. They're all the same geek. Almost all of them are the same geek, especially the computer guys like Gates.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if he'll clean up on Tinder because I think the divorce is going to drop him out of the top 20 in the world's
That's true.
richest. So, I mean, you got to be at least top 20 to play the field on Tinder.
It's going to drop him out, but put her in. I mean, that's quite a catch. Just like Bezos' ex-wife, that's quite a catch. I mean, does John Kerry know that she's available yet?
Oh, God.
All right, before we go, we got to do this, Shattuck, when you're here, because you and I, we like tracking fake news and pointing out just what frauds there are in the news. But the Rudy Giuliani thing, I just want to mention this. We know the media lied about Giuliani. We weren't surprised. We know this is the ultimate political, hit job, raiding his apartment, taking his electronics, not the electronics that he has, that has all of Hunter Biden's stuff on their photos. We leave that there. We're going to take his stuff, and they're going to leak out little by little all the conversations Giuliani had with Trump. It's going to get ugly. But the media, we like talking about the media, the fake news. We like to remind people that there is zero reasons to trust the media. This was reported initially by the Washington Post. That's despicable. That's not true. They said that they were warned by the FBI, Rudy Giuliani and Ron Johnson, and I believe OAN were warned that they are conduits for Russian disinformation, that Russians were using them. That never happened. The Washington Post made it up, kind of like the New York Times made up the story about Brian Sicknick getting hit with a fire extinguisher. Just made it up. I mean, that's bad enough. But what happens after one media outlet makes up something? The next media outlet says, we confirmed it. We confirmed it. So the Washington Post, just like again the New York Times with the Sicknick thing, Washington Post makes up this lie about Giuliani, and I believe NBC and the New York Times confirmed it through their sources, that should make you wonder about everything they report, because that's completely made up. They made it up. Now today, someone will say, "Oh, it was in the Washington Post, the New York Times," and I will say, why would you believe it? We just saw that they made up something against one of their enemies for the benefit of, their side, their people. It's what they do. I mean, they make stuff up and they don't ever pay a price for it. If I don't know, Tucker Carlson makes up one thing and gets it wrong, it's a huge deal, a huge story. Washington Post makes up something as irresponsible as this, and nobody cares. It's like, yeah, whatever, we'll move on.
Oh, yeah. No, this happened all through Trump constantly with the IRS stuff. Now they've got his tax records. It was never ending with Trump. And the media never, as a matter of fact, they put out a fake fact checker to put it out suppressing fire. So you'd never get deep enough to say, how are you doing this? And then, of course, the AP, the wire services would grab it as well. And then it gets out into every local paper in the country, small outlets in the world. And it's crazy. But, the New York Post puts out a story saying that Kamala Harris's book is making its way around the border facilities, and that turns out to be wrong. And that is, this needs to stop right here. This is incredible right-wing media and conservatives, what they are doing, getting people killed, literally. Getting people killed, between Tucker Carlson forbidding people to get vaccinated to this false story about the border, the right-wing media now. Fox is killing people. And that's why CNN now, their whole format is just anti-Fox. It's freaking crazy.
Well, the orange band is gone. They've turned their attention to Tucker Carlson and Joe Rogan, but it's going to get worse. It's just going to get worse. It's crazy right out there now because, I mean, they just raided the office of the president's lawyer and took everything off the cloud, all his communications. Yeah. I don't care if you hate Giuliani and Trump. That is frightening that we're now raiding the offices of our political enemies' lawyers.
Right. And like you said, treated the Hunter Biden stuff like it was kryptonite. Like they were like, Giuliani was walking towards them with it, and they were like, no, we want nothing to do with that. Keep that away. I mean, first of all, it shows how cunning Giuliani is, that he was ready for this, but also how overt can you be that this is a bullshit
Hey,
flim-flam operation.
You could do it to Michael Cohen or some dope like that. You can't. Giuliani doesn't take this lying down. He will fight. It'll be good. I mean, he's already fighting. And when he points out that he offered them the Hunter Biden hard drive, he offered it, and they said, "No, we're good." So this thing with which someday maybe we'll get to see all that's on there, and I think I know some of it, and it is so incredibly outrageous and sick what these pictures and these communications show about Hunter Biden. People are going to go, why wasn't he arrested? Why isn't he in jail? Because he's a sick dude and he's being protected for obvious reasons. But Giuliani is going to fight, and it's going to get wild. And Trump has barely, left Florida. He's going to start doing rallies, and it's going to just get so crazy at some point. And, when we can all go outside without masks and go outside and hold rallies again, it's going to get nuts. But
and what's going to get nuts because this summer, Gerry, as well, we're already seeing inflation. Gas prices, and, prices of lumber are going through the roof. Meat prices, hospitality can't get workers now. We're about to faceplant, with inflation here and a labor shortage, and it's going to create a problem amongst a whole new set of people. And that's going to be tough, and that's going to be trouble. And it ain't Donald Trump's fault.
Yep, there was good news yesterday from Joe Biden, though. He said nobody who makes under $400,000 will pay 1 penny in taxes. You heard that, right, Chaddock?
Yeah, that was aggressive
good news for all of us. That's great news. Not good news for the Gateses or the Bezos, but nobody. He should have made this promise during the campaign. He won in a landslide.
The reason I'm bothering to do this is I keep hearing on the press Biden's going to raise your taxes. Anybody making less than $400,000 a year will not pay a single penny in taxes.
That's pretty good. No taxes for anybody under $400,000. I don't know how we are going to fund all those programs, but we'll see. He wouldn't lie to us. He's old Amtrak Joe. He's just a regular guy. But we'll leave it there. Shattuck, good job on Substack this week. You had a couple good pieces. If you're not following or subscribing to Tom Shattuck on Substack, do it now. He's written some good stuff. One really good one about your softball team and how the masks are masking all the joy on the children's faces. It was nicely done, and it gives you a different angle on this mask insanity and how kids are out there and you can't see them smile. It just defeats the whole purpose, being a kid and hitting a single and getting to first base. The whole point of it is to see the smile, to see the joy, and you can't see it because of this insane mask mandate. Keep fighting to free these kids from this mask tyranny, Shattuck.
I have to teach them to be unpatriotic, I guess, Gerry.
Yes, right. Teach them to be unpatriotic and to not do their part in this, to strip off that stupid mask. Have a mask burning party at the end of the season. Bring a burn barrel. You got one of those burn barrel. And everyone
That's a great marketing idea for the podcast. That's great. That's brilliant.
Right. Like the Tigers did the disco burning party, right? In the middle of the field.
Yes.
That turned out all right.
Right. And then, right. And everyone was just smashing things and setting things on fire. It was like, nickel beer night. And I forget where that was, in Detroit or Chicago. And they just destroyed the whole stadium, and they never had one of those promotions again. But that is Tom Shattuck from the Burn Barrel podcast and from his own Substack. You can, what is it again? Tom Shattuck at Substack.com.
TomShattuck.substack.com.
Substack.com. Read him, listen to him. That is our guy, Tom Shattuck. And thanks to DCU and Allied Paving and Shake Concrete. And thanks to everybody for listening and watching on YouTube. Are you reading all the comments, Colin? Because
I'm checking them out. We need more, and I know you're going to disagree with me here. We need more Everetts in the comment section.
Shut up.
There's not a lot of disagreement in the comment section. A lot of people agree with Gerry.
Not true. I see people. I get more dissent than most people like me. I decide a lot of people like me just preach to the choir, and everyone on there who follows them loves them. And I get people that hate me and still respond. And
I want the comment section to look like your Twitter replies. That's what I want. That's what I want every day, is because you get it in the Twitter replies, but we need to bring that over to you too.
What is Everett commenting about? It's just stupid. Everything race, everything.
Like I say, he's doing his.
Where is Everett on any other issue, or is there no other issue?
Nowhere.
Yeah, Everett didn't want to talk sports with us yesterday in the NFL draft. I didn't even see him in the comments yesterday, unfortunately.
And we're just arguing about BLM and about whatever. But it is, maybe it's only me. It's just amazing to me that there was no reaction to Ayanna Pressley accusing cops of murdering 70 people in 1 week. And there's nothing. Nobody questions her. As somebody pointed out, one of the commenters the other day, is she accused, I guess, the Capitol Police of destroying the panic button in her office before the riot. Like, they removed it so she couldn't call for help. No follow-up, no questions, again, there's no media that's going to do that. The Boston Globe is not really a newspaper. They're in the tank. The local stations probably don't, focus on her. But what about one follow-up? Can I see the destroyed panic button, take a picture of it? That's a pretty big deal. That before they stormed the castle and threatened to, kill you all, they removed the one way you had to call for help. That's a big story by any standard. But as we all know, she just made it up. It's not true, and no one calls her out. It's great to be Ayanna Pressley. Never. It's kind of like being LeBron. You never have to say you're sorry. You can tell the most outrageous lie and nobody cares, because they really don't take you seriously, Ayanna or LeBron. They really don't. But we shall leave it there. This is May the 4th, by the way, and I want to congratulate myself. Credit to me for not making a stupid Star Wars joke, because I hate Star Wars.
That. Yeah, we all appreciate you not going there. We don't need that today at all.
No, we don't. And I hate Star Wars anyway, so I will leave it there. I'm Gerry Callahan. This is the Callahan Podcast, and we will do it again.